Hello everyone, this is Sadia Malik, and today we are going to do a poem which is part of the first year English textbook course. This is unit number 13, and the name of the poem is Ozymandias by P.B.Shelley. So first, let us talk about the poet a little bit. As far as P.B.Shelley is concerned, he was one of the major English Romantic poets. His friends included poets and writers like big names Lord Byron, John Keats, Leigh Hunt, and even his own second wife, Mary Shelley. She was a writer as well, and she wrote the most famous novel, Frankenstein. Shelley is best known for his classical poems such as Ozymandias, Ode to the West Wind, and To a Skylark. A little bit background about the poem. Ozymandias is one of P.B. Shelley's best known poems. It was written sometimes between December 1817 and January 1818 and was probably the result of a sonnet competition between Shelley and his friend Horace Smith. Ancient Egyptian monuments were arriving in England to the public's great excitement. So this was a time when the ruins were being excavated in Egypt, and the artifacts and the ruins or whatever statues were being dug up, they were being sent to England for exhibition. And people were showing great interest in this lost civilization, which was suddenly coming to surface again. And this was a very common thing to happen between poets, that they used to select a topic, and both or all the poets in the company, they used to write poems on that given topic, and there was a little competition, and then it was decided whose poem was the best. So basically there are two poems, Ozymandias, available, one written by Shelley and the other one by his friend Horace Smith as well, but it was decided that P.B. Shelley's poem was much better. Now, as far as the structure is concerned, it's a sonnet. We already know what a sonnet is because we have done one sonnet before, This World is Too Much with Us by William Wordsworth. And we know that a sonnet is a poem that is comprised of 14 lines. This sonnet is also a patriarchal sonnet, as we discussed earlier, that there is a Shakespearean sonnet also. But this one is a patriarchal sonnet in which the division of the line is 8 plus 6. So the first 8 lines are called the octave, and they are divided into 2 quatrains, 4 plus 4. And the next 6 lines are called sestet, which are further divided into a stanza of 3 lines each. And then a theme changes in the 9th line, and that is called the volta, or the turning point of the poem. So Petrarchan sonnets are basically an Italian genre because Petrarch was an Italian poet and he made this structure a very famous one. Now, who was Ozymandias? Because this is the name of the poem also, this is the title as well. Ozymandias can be read in different spellings. Sometimes you come across it by Osymandis, Ozymandias. Ozymandias was basically Ramesses II, who was an Egyptian pharaoh. And he was also known as Ozymandias because we all know that kings in the past used to give themselves a lot of different titles. So one of the titles that Ramesses II had was Ozymandias. He lived from 1279 to 1213 before Christ. So that was a long time ago, and was some 96 years old when he died. He had 200 wives and concubines with 96 sons and 60 daughters. So he remained the king for a very long time, and he believed that he was the most powerful kings of all time, and that is why even on the statue he had it written at the bottom, King of all kings. So his statue is at the site of the ancient Egyptian capital Thebes, which was 420 miles south of Cairo. But with the passage of time, the civilization had a downfall, and then suddenly it was covered with sand, and for a very long time people did not even know that there was the city Thebes. So it was only in 1800s when some digging was done and some artifacts were found, and later a bigger expedition was sent over there, and then the archaeologists went over there and they dug up the statue of Ozymandias. Originally, the statue that we are talking about here was 57 feet high, but the one mentioned in the poem is a broken one. Only 2 legs were sticking out of the ground, and there was no torso, no upper body, and the face was half sunk in sand. But now, as in the picture that you see on the slide, it was like 2 or 3 years ago that the Egyptian government, they rebuilt the statue of Ozymandias, and it was open for public. So even there you can see that the size is so great because you can see the people standing near the feet of him, and they look very small in comparison. So there was an inscription written at the bottom at the pedestal. I am Ozymandias, King of Kings. And he is almost like challenging everybody out there that can somebody come and surpass me in my works. Now, as far as the summary is concerned, the speaker describes a meeting with a traveler who has traveled to a place where an ancient civilization once existed. So the poet or the narrator tells you that he met a traveler, and the traveler had recently come back from this ancient civilization. The traveler saw an old broken statue in the middle of the desert. The head had broken off, but one could still make out the face. So it was like a headless statue, only the legs were there, and the face was half buried in sand. It looked stern and cruel and powerful like that of a ruler. And we all know that statues were never made of common people, so we could just guess that maybe this is the statue of a ruler. But the look on the statue was of a very stern and cruel, powerful person. The sculptor did a good job at expressing the ruler's personality. And, the traveler tells that the sculptor was really good because all the expressions were shown on the face in a very perfect way. On the pedestal near the broken face, the traveler read an inscription in which the ruler Ozymandias tells everyone who might happen to pass by, "Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair." So this is a very arrogant inscription to write. It is as if you are telling all the people around you, and maybe the people who are going to come in the next generation, that nobody can come near me. I am like the mightiest of kings in the history of time because I have done so much. And mighty and despair means go and be jealous of me, because no matter how much you try, you can never be like me. But there is no other evidence of his awesomeness in the vicinity of his giant broken statue. There is just sand as far as the eye can see. So such an arrogant display of might and power, but when you look around, you realize that maybe he was a good king, maybe he was a powerful king, but not anymore. So time is the biggest leveler. Time takes care of everybody in the same way. So at the end of the game, the pawn and the king go back in the same box. So here also, the theme is the same, that no matter how powerful you are, time takes you in the same way that it would take any poor person, and you would die. And when you die, you are forgotten and nobody remembers you anymore. Now, as we do with other sonnets also, we have taken out the rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme of this sonnet is a little haywired, which means that it is not a regular rhyme scheme. So you can see here A, B, A, B, and we somehow expect the next four lines to be A, B, A, B also, but they are A, C, D, C. So Shelley is not keeping a rigid rhyme scheme here. So it's A, B, A, B, and A, C, D, C. And then even in the next six lines, he does not follow the same convention. It's E, D, E, and F, E, F. So it does not follow the same convention that it did in the previous sonnet that we did by Wordsworth, but somehow it is a little out of rhyme here. But we can see that the poem is still divided into 4 plus 4, 8 lines, and 3 plus 3, 6 lines. And the last two lines don't rhyme with one another, bear and away. So it means that it is not a Shakespearean sonnet, it is basically a Petrarchan sonnet. Now, as far as themes are concerned, transience. Transience means being temporary, something which is not permanent. So Ozymandias is about transience. The fact that the statue is a colossal wreck says loudly and clearly that nothing lasts forever. So that would be your main theme. The poem shows how big statues eventually succumb to the ravages of time. No matter how big you are, even if you're a 57-foot high statue, time destroys you. The statue is a symbol of Ozymandias' ambition, pride, and absolute power, and thus the poem also stresses that kingdoms and political regimes will eventually crumble, leaving no trace of their existence. What remains is a pathetic, broken statue. So nobody even remembers his kingdom. Nobody even knows who Ramesses II was. It was only after he was dug up under the sand, people realized, oh, there was a civilization here before, but nobody remembered who he was. The second theme can be pride, because the inscription on the pedestal is a very arrogant one. Ozymandias calls himself the King of Kings, while also implying that his works are the best around. Ozymandias thinks pretty highly of himself and what he has achieved, both politically and artistically. His pride hath a fall, as time is the greatest of all levelers. All the mighty and the powerful die and are remembered no more. So it doesn't really matter how good you are, how great you are, how powerful you are. Time takes care of everybody. And then there's another theme, longevity of art. Longevity means having a life, having a longer life than human beings. An artist with his remarkable work can live longer than the actual rulers through their art. When all the political powers are destroyed, the art still survives. So we do not know who Ramesses is, and we do not know whether he was a king or not, but by looking at the sculpture, we can appreciate the artist. So art has a longer life than kingdoms and political regimes. Now coming to comprehension questions, describe in your own words the anatomical condition of the statue as portrayed by Shelley. So this is the first 8 lines basically, because the first 8 lines are focusing on the destruction of the statue and how it looks like, as the travelers had seen that in the middle of a desert. Shelley has used the word trunkless legs of stone and broken visage, which shows the disoriented deteriorated condition of the statue. Its torso had fallen off, only legs are sticking out of sand. Even the face is half buried in sand and broken. The frowning face and the wrinkled lip are still visible. The expression on the face show that man to be a cruel, heartless, and arrogant man. It looked like a statue of a ruler who was merciless and ruled with an iron hand. So maybe he wanted to be remembered like that. Maybe he told the sculptor to make him look very angry and arrogant, so people would be afraid of him when they look at his statue. But this is what has survived of him. What is the tone? It has an ironic tone. The irony is visible through the contrast of Ozymandias' exaggerated vision of his power as a ruler of a mighty kingdom and what survives of it today. So irony is when you say something but the totally opposite happens. So here we have a broken statue scattered on an empty desert. We are told that nothing beside remains. The huge statue has had carved of himself to overawe people are in pieces. So he wanted to scare people, but the pity is that nobody is scared of him anymore. Nobody even remembers who he was. So this is the irony. No trace of his kingdom still exists. No work survive to make people to tremble and to despair. So he's saying, "Ye mighty, look upon my work and be despair." But it is funny when you look around and you realize nothing survived. There's nothing that you can see and be impressed by his power. So this is how temporary everything is. Give some examples of alliteration and their purpose. There are several instances of alliteration in Ozymandias, including the phrases cold command, boundless and bare, wrinkled lip, two vast and trunkless legs of stone, t sound is quite visible, lone and level, L sound, round the decay, D. The repetition and alliteration often makes a poem sound more interesting and pleasant, and it can also create a soothing rhythm. Then describe the imagery. What sort of a picture does it evoke? Imagery is used to make the reader feel things through the 5 senses. The poet has used images involving a sense of sight, such as two vast and trunkless legs, shattered face, wrinkled lip, and desert. These images help the readers visualize the status of the broken statue. And also about the desert, because you can feel it. The heat of a desert and the sand and the brittleness and the roughness of the stone, you can all feel that when you are reading it. So the imagery is quite powerful. It brings to your mind the picture that the poet is trying to create. Describe the lines. This is very important. Most of the time you really get this as your question, that what do the lines mean? These lines attempt to convey the message that no matter how great we think we are, we all ultimately succumb, which means give in to the power of time. Ozymandias believed that he would be invincible and would live on forever in his statues and works of art, etc. It is very ironic that his own statue, along with his works, have disappeared forever. So if there is one lesson that you get out of Ozymandias is that time is the biggest leveler. At the end of the game, the king and the pawn go in the same box. So we all mortals, we all die. And no matter how powerful you are, if you had been a king of a very big kingdom, it does not really matter, because when you die, you are gone, you're forgotten, nobody remembers you. Even your works are destroyed, and they are not remembered anymore. If you have any question, please ask in the comment box. Also like my video and subscribe to my channel. Press the bell icon to get future notifications on other chapters of this book. Thank you.